Heartland, Season 19. The sun crept over the rolling hills of Heartland, bathing the vast ranch in a golden glow as dawn broke. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of fresh hay and morning dew. Near the barn, Amy stood in quiet contemplation, her gaze locked on Lindy, who giggled as she playfully reached for the horses, their gentle snorts blending with the soft rustling of the trees. It should have been a moment of pure serenity, a picture-perfect morning on the ranch. But deep in Amy's heart, an unshakable feeling of change loomed, an invisible current of unease threading through the peaceful silence. Something was coming, and she could feel it in the very air around her. For Amy, Heartland was more than just a ranch. It was her sanctuary, the place where she found solace in the rhythm of the land, where every sunrise carried whispers of memories, both beautiful and bittersweet. It was here that she had grown, where she had faced life's greatest joys and its most heartbreaking losses. And it was here, among the rolling fields and endless sky, that she had met Ty Borden, the man who had taught her the meaning of love, of healing, of believing in second chances. But now, Ty was gone. His absence wasn't just a missing presence, it was a deep, unfillable void that no amount of work or time could erase. For years, Amy had buried her grief beneath the weight of responsibility, pouring herself into the ranch and raising Lindy. Yet in moments like this, when the quiet settled and the wind carried echoes of the past, the loss became inescapable, pressing against her chest like an ache that never truly faded. "Mom?" Lindy's voice broke through Amy's thoughts, and she turned to see her daughter looking at her with a puzzled expression. "Are you okay?" Amy forced a smile, though the sadness in her eyes was impossible to hide. "I'm fine, sweetheart." "Just thinking." Lindy nodded, her attention already turning back to the horses. Amy watched her, feeling a sharp pang in her heart. Lindy had grown so much since Ty had passed. She was becoming her own person, independent and fearless, much like Ty had been. The resemblance between them was striking, and it filled Amy with both pride and a deep, aching sorrow. How she wished Ty could have been here to see this, to see the little girl they had both loved so much, the little girl who had inherited so many of his traits. As Amy stood there, lost in the tide of her thoughts, the distant crunch of tires on gravel snapped her back to reality. She turned just in time to see a truck rolling up the long driveway, its arrival unexpected yet eerily familiar. Visitors weren't uncommon at Heartland, but something about this moment felt different, charged with an unspoken urgency. The dust kicked up by the tires hung thick in the air, swirling like a silent omen. From the barn, Jack emerged, his weathered gaze narrowing as he studied the approaching vehicle. Amy's pulse quickened, an uneasy rhythm drumming in her chest. As the truck slowed to a stop, a shiver ran down her spine. Was this real, or was her mind playing cruel tricks on her? The door of the truck creaked open, and a figure emerged. For a split second, time seemed to stand still. Amy's breath hitched in her chest as she looked at the figure, a man she had not seen in years, a man who had been part of her life in a way no one else had. Her pulse quickened, her hands trembling as she took a step forward. Ty, it couldn't be. It was impossible. But there he was, standing before her. Alive. Ty Borden. Amy's heart pounded in her chest, a wild rhythm of disbelief and longing. She stood frozen, her breath caught between shock and hope, unable to trust what her eyes were telling her. For years, she had mourned him, forced herself to accept the impossible truth, convinced that the love they had shared was now just a memory, beautiful, but unreachable. And yet, in this moment, time unraveled. The years of grief, of aching loneliness, dissolved like mist in the morning sun. Her vision blurred with unshed tears as she fought to steady herself, but the world around her seemed to tilt. A storm of emotions raged within her: fear, joy, and aching desperation to believe. The man who had once been her entire world stood before her, flesh and blood, as real as the wind against her skin. Jack's face turned pale as he saw Ty, his usual composure faltering. "Lou, too," gasped in shock, her hand flying to her mouth. Lindy, still unaware of the emotional weight of the moment, looked up at the man standing at the edge of the driveway with curiosity. Amy took a cautious step forward, unable to tear her eyes away from him. "Ty?" Her voice trembled, a mixture of disbelief and hope flooding her. Ty's eyes met hers, his expression softening. There was no mistaking the look in his eyes. It was the same love, the same warmth that had once made Amy fall in love with him. He was back, and everything she thought she had lost was suddenly within reach again. "Amy," Ty said softly, his voice cracking as he took a tentative step forward, "I never wanted to leave you. I never thought I'd get the chance to come back, but I've made mistakes, and I need you to know that I'm here now." Amy's heart skipped a beat as she looked at him, struggling to find the right words. So much had happened in the years since he had left. She had rebuilt her life, learned to live without him, and moved forward in many ways. And yet, standing in front of him, those old feelings, the love they had shared, came rushing back. But how could she open her heart again? How could she welcome him back after everything that had happened? Amy took a deep breath, struggling to steady herself as she stood before Ty. Her heart pounded in her chest, the weight of everything that had come before crashing down upon her. The moment felt surreal, like a dream she wasn't sure was real. Ready to wake up from, but at the same time, she wasn't sure she was ready to embrace it. "Ty?" Amy whispered again, her voice barely above a breath. "How? How are you here? How is this possible?" Ty stood there, looking both vulnerable and determined, his face a mixture of regret and longing. He stepped forward, but it felt like an eternity before he could close the distance between them. There was so much he wanted to say, but for a moment, all he could do was look at her, the woman he had loved, the woman he had left behind. He had never meant to hurt her. "I know it doesn't make sense," Ty said, his voice raw with emotion. "I never thought I'd be standing here again. But I couldn't stay away. I couldn't live with myself knowing I left you, knowing I abandoned everything we had. But I had to find my way back on my own first." Amy's breath hitched as his words settled over her, heavy with the weight of lost time. Her eyes searched his face, tracing the lines that hadn't been there before, the shadows of the years apart. The warmth in his voice stirred something deep inside her, something she had buried beneath grief, duty, and the quiet ache of moving forward without him. She wanted to believe him, to believe that the man standing before her was still the one who had once promised forever, the one who had shared her dreams, her heartaches, her very soul. But time had changed them both, sculpting them into different versions of who they used to be. And as she stood there, caught between the past and the present, a single, terrifying question echoed in her mind. Was this still the Ty she had loved, or had he become a stranger? And if she let him back in, what would it mean for the life she had fought so hard to build? "You left me, Ty," Amy said quietly, her voice shaking. "You left me when I needed you the most. I had to pick up the pieces of my life without you. I had to move on for Lindy, for myself. I couldn't wait forever." Ty's face fell, and he lowered his gaze. He knew she was right. He had left her in the darkest of times, and the pain of that abandonment was still raw in her heart. "I'm sorry, Amy. I truly am. I never wanted to hurt you. But I wasn't the man you needed me to be back then. I wasn't ready." Amy felt a wave of anger rise within her. It wasn't just the pain of losing him that hurt, but the feeling of betrayal, the way he had disappeared without a trace. She had spent so many years wondering what had happened, why he left without a word, without an explanation. And now, standing in front of him, all she wanted to do was scream, to tell him how much he had broken her. But why, Ty? Why couldn't you have come back sooner? Amy asked, her voice tinged with frustration. I had to carry on without you. I had to keep going even when it felt like my heart was breaking every single day. And now you show up like nothing has changed. Ty closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of her words. But when he opened them again, there was a quiet resolve. I couldn't come back, Amy. I wasn't whole. I was still lost, and I couldn't be the man you needed me to be if I couldn't even find myself. But I'm here now. I know that doesn't change the past, but I want to make things right. I want to try if you'll let me. Amy's heart twisted as she listened to his words. There was truth in what he said, but the scars of the past were not so easily erased. She had built a life, a future without him, with Nathan by her side. Someone who had been there for her when Ty was gone. Nathan had been understanding, kind, and patient, always offering his support when Amy needed it most. He had filled the void that Ty left behind. And now, she was torn. Lindy had noticed the tension between her mother and Ty, and she stood still, her gaze bouncing between them, clearly confused. Amy could feel her daughter's eyes on her, and it made her even more acutely aware of the delicate situation she now found herself in. Lindy was growing up, becoming more independent, and Amy couldn't help but wonder how this reunion might affect her. Ty's return might bring back memories of a family that no longer existed, a life they couldn't go back to. Mom? Lindy asked, her voice tentative as she walked over to Amy's side, her small hand reaching for hers. Who's this? Amy looked down at her daughter, then back at Ty. She hadn't expected this moment to come so suddenly, but now, with Lindy standing there, the reality of the situation hit her harder than ever. This wasn't just about her and Ty. It was about their daughter, the life they had built together, and the life she had built without him. Lindy, Amy began, her voice soft but steady, this is Ty. He used to be a big part of our lives. Your dad and I, well, we had a lot of good memories together. Lindy's eyes studied Ty for a moment, curiosity mixed with caution. Used to be? Amy smiled faintly, her heart aching as she searched for the right words. She realized how much had changed. Yes, sweetheart, it used to be. Ty smiled gently, his eyes full of warmth as he crouched down to Lindy's level. Hey there, Lindy. It's so good to see you again. You've grown up so much. The days following Ty's return to Heartland were filled with an unsettling tension that neither Amy nor Ty could escape. Although they had exchanged initial pleasantries and reconnected with Lindy, the past hung between them like a shadow, constantly reminding them of the years they had lost. Amy had been so sure that she had moved on, that the love she had once shared with Ty was a chapter in her life that was closed. But now that he was standing in front of her alive, real, and filled with the same warmth she remembered, she couldn't help but feel conflicted. Every time she saw him, a part of her heart still wanted to reach for him. But the other part, the part that had been hurt so deeply by his departure, was more hesitant. The scars were there, hidden beneath the surface, and Amy wasn't sure how to reconcile them with the hope that Ty's return had stirred inside her. The ranch had always been a symbol of healing for Amy, but now it felt like a battleground, an emotional battlefield where love and pain collided, each vying for control over her heart. Ty, too, felt the weight of their complicated history. His return hadn't been easy. The years apart had changed him, had forced him to confront his own demons and grow into the man he was now. He had learned hard lessons along the way, but he still carried the guilt of leaving Amy behind. He knew he couldn't undo the past, but he was willing to try to build something new with her, something real. But he also understood that Amy's heart wasn't something that could simply be picked up where they had left off. She had moved forward in ways he hadn't expected, and now he had to prove that he was worthy of her trust and her love once more. One morning, As the sun filtered through the trees and cast its soft golden light across the fields, Amy found herself walking toward the barn. She hadn't seen Ty all morning, and though she had told herself that she needed space to process everything, she felt a pull to find him. When she reached the barn, she saw him standing by one of the stables, his hands resting lightly on the wooden posts. He was looking out over the horizon, lost in thought. For a moment, Amy just stood there, watching him the way the light caught his face, the way his posture seemed both strong and vulnerable. It reminded her of the man she had once loved so fiercely. "Ty?" she said softly, her voice carrying across the quiet morning air. He turned, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked. A flood of emotions passed between them: guilt, longing, uncertainty, and a sliver of hope. "Hey, Amy," Ty replied, his voice low. "I was just thinking." Amy nodded, taking a few steps closer. She could feel the distance between them even though they were standing just a few feet apart. The space was filled with unspoken words, things they both needed to say, but weren't sure how to begin. "I don't know how to do this," Amy said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "I don't know how to just pick up where we left off." "You left me, Ty. You left me with a broken heart, and I don't know if I can fix that. I don't know if I can trust you again." Ty took a step toward her, his expression serious. "I know I don't deserve your trust, Amy. I know I hurt you in ways I can never take back. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. I want to prove to you that I can be the man you need. But I can't do it alone. I need you to let me in again." Amy's chest tightened as she listened to him. She could hear the sincerity in his voice, but the fear of being hurt again was overwhelming. It was a constant battle between wanting to forgive him and not wanting to risk the heartache that had followed his departure. Ty continued, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I know we've both changed. But I'm asking for a chance to rebuild, to show you that I'm not the same person I was when I left. You don't have to forgive me right away, Amy. But please, let me show you that I'm here to stay for you, for Lindy, for the family we could have." The words hit Amy like a wave, knocking the wind out of her. She had always dreamed of hearing those words from Ty, dreamed of the day when he would return and apologize for leaving her, for breaking her heart. But now that it was happening, it felt so surreal. Could she truly open her heart to him again? Could she risk letting him back into her life, knowing the pain it had caused? I don't know if I can," Amy whispered. Amy admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I've spent so long trying to move on, trying to heal, and now you're here, and everything I thought I knew about my life feels like it's been turned upside down." As the days bled into weeks, the tension between Amy and Ty shifted like an untamed river, sometimes calm, sometimes surging beneath the surface, but never truly disappearing. Amy tried to hold on to the familiar rhythms of Heartland, burying herself in work with the horses, tending to Lindy, and pretending that life hadn't been upended by the man who had once been her everything. But then there were the fleeting moments when she'd catch Ty's gaze from across the barn, when his voice would echo in the silence of an evening, when the memories of what they had lost pressed down on her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. His return had reopened wounds she thought had scarred over, stirring up a storm of love, grief, and regret she wasn't sure how to weather. Ty, on the other hand, was relentless in his quiet determination. He threw himself into the ranch, working shoulder to shoulder with Jack and Mitch, proving with every action that he was here to stay. He didn't just want to earn back his place at Heartland, he wanted to earn back Amy. But no matter how many fences he mended or hours he spent trying to rebuild what had been broken, Amy remained guarded. She had told him she wasn't ready, that she needed time to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions his return had stirred. Ty understood, he truly did, but understanding didn't make it any easier. Every day without her, without the closeness they once shared, stretched into an eternity. The nights, though, were the cruelest. When Amy lay in bed, the quiet of the house swallowed her whole. Shadows of the past crept in, memories of whispered conversations in the dark, of mornings wrapped in each other's warmth, of dreams once shared so effortlessly. And as she stared at the ceiling, she couldn't silence the questions that haunted her. Could they ever find their way back? Was love enough to bridge the years of heartache? Or had too much time passed, too much pain settled between them, for them to ever be the same again? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of purple and gold, Amy found herself standing outside the house, staring out over the fields. She hadn't planned on going outside, but the weight in her chest had become too much to bear. Her thoughts were too loud, her emotions too overwhelming. She needed air. She needed space to think. "Hey!" A familiar voice broke through the stillness, and Amy turned to see Ty walking toward her. His expression was gentle, his eyes filled with the same softness she had once loved. She wasn't sure if it was the fatigue of the past few weeks or the exhaustion of her own heart, but seeing him standing there suddenly felt like too much. "Hi," Amy said, her voice barely above a whisper. She didn't know what to say to him anymore. The words felt locked behind a wall in her chest, too difficult to find. Instead, she just stood there, her arms wrapped around herself as if she could somehow protect her heart from everything that had come rushing back. Ty walked up beside her, keeping a respectful distance but close enough that she could feel his presence. The silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, but heavy with unspoken words. After a few moments, Ty spoke again, his voice low. "I miss you, Amy. I miss us. I know it's not the same as it was before, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you, for Lindy, for everything." Amy turned her head to look at him, her heart aching with every word he spoke. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the regret in his posture. It wasn't easy for him either, but his words hit her harder than she expected. She had spent so long pushing away the love she had once shared with him, convincing herself that it was gone, that it was safer to let him go. But now, standing in front of him, she realized how much of her heart still belonged to him. "I don't know how to do this," Amy admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't know how to go back to a time before all of this, before you left. I've changed, Ty. I'm not the same person I was when you left. I've built a life here without you, and now I don't know where you fit into that life." Ty reached out and gently placed his hand on hers, the warmth of his touch grounding her in that moment. "I don't expect things to be the same, Amy. I don't even expect things to be easy. But I'm here. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to show you that we can have something new, something better." Amy's heart fluttered at his words, but she still couldn't shake the fear that had taken root inside her. What if it wasn't possible? What if they couldn't go back to what they had? What if the pain of the past was too deep to overcome? "I don't want to hurt again, Ty," she said, her voice filled with quiet desperation. "I don't want to feel like I'm giving you my heart only for you to leave again. I can't go through that." Ty's eyes softened, and his grip on her hand tightened. "I'm not leaving. I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for good, Amy. I've spent too long running from the things that matter most, but now I'm ready to face them. And I'm ready to face you for better or for worse." Share your thoughts in comments section and subscribe my channel for more updates.